Hello YouTube, this is Elwirfy coming at you. Just celebrated the 200 subscriber special. Really glad to get that out of the way. Obviously, as you can tell, all of my Death Company Assault guys still have not yet been painted. We'll be doing that when I get to the big... I'm going to do a massive section where a lot of my videos are just going to be centered on painting. So I'm saving these guys for that, so that way I can do all my painting simultaneously, because it gets pretty messy. Obviously we have our paints here. We've got the black, some blue. I'm going to use that for some specific stuff. And then of course the red. And we got our glue. So we do have all the paint that we're actually going to need to do painting. But that's not actually what I'm going to be focusing on. Oh look, we even got our paint brushes here. Very fancy. Toothpicks for paint and such. And then there's all this stuff, all this plastic that we're not going to use. Because it's completely unnecessary to what we're doing. But there is something I do want to show you guys in this kind of midway, sort of while we're waiting for paint to dry and stuff. I actually was able to take, if you want to come with me for a second. So as you can see here, we got ourselves the two rhinos. They will need to get some paint updates on them a little bit because they're a bit faded. And our drop pod, so all this is good, but all the guys are gone out of here. There's like no guys in this whole area. Well, why is that? Well, I actually was able to move them into this nice box here. What I'm going to be showing you guys today is a very good way to transport your models without making anything ridiculously expensive. So as you can see, we have our Death Company Dreadnought, the Death Company Chaplain. We got our, starting here, we got our Terminator Squad. And then we have the commanders as well as our multi-gun. Pretty much our special weapons. All of our infantry, besides the basic guys, are right here. But this is a pretty thick box, So we're going to go ahead and pick up... hold on. We're going to do this in a little bit of a smarter way. There we go. I'm going to pick that up. Set that down over here just for a second. And as you can see, I was actually able to cut out and completely make room for all of the regular Marines. So these are all my regular Marines. I've been able to put them all into a box, and so that way all my guys will be protected when we go to transport to go take them to play games. But here's the important part though. This is actually probably cheaper, like the way I did it, than what you'd expect. Now the foam itself, obviously we have a lot to work with. This is going to be for our tanks when we finally start foaming them up. Once all 6 of our tanks are done, we have some leftover foam. Then I do have to get some more cutting done. All of these right here are going to be for the Assault Marines. So all of those guys are eventually going to be put into that, and we have some more boxes there as well. And so the plan is to essentially just get them all into boxes so that way they can be transported and taken to the game store where we're actually going to be playing. And once again, not sure if I'm going to do much more detailing on these guys. These Marines seem to look pretty good in my opinion. I don't think there's too much more needed to be done. I really like this model because I like the pose. I like it when my Marines are looking in the same direction as their gun. I'm not as much of a fan of the guys who are kind of look like they're marching and stuff like that. I don't know. It seems less intimidating to me. But yeah, so the foam was about roughly $35. The boxes were another $35. So that's about $70. But compared to the hundreds of dollars you could actually spend on the official game cases, which won't let you carry as much stuff, I'd say this was still a pretty good deal. So let's go ahead and pick up the box, the special stuff here. I'm going to go ahead and put these guys back away. Also because it helps me clear out some space as well, having these guys all nicely packaged up. Let's go ahead and slip these guys in here. And as you can see, it doesn't hurt any of the models the way I do it. Oh god, okay. Slight bump. These guys are durable though. So I wouldn't worry about breaking them too much. I just got a bit nervous there for a second. Everyone's still good, right? Yeah, everyone's still good. Okay. But yeah, so we just put the case back on. Oh, gotta make sure the flaps are open. And yeah, so that's pretty much going to be my review of the packaging system. And they're all completely protected, you know, because of this gap. You know, we can pick them up, and they're not going to be moving around too much inside. And because of how I'm feeling, we actually were able to get in our Predator tanks. Or, well, these are the Ball Predator. These are some very special tanks that we got. And is this an unboxing video? No, we're not going to be unboxing these guys yet. I still have Vindicators to do, but in the future, just know that we are going to be getting some Ball Predators in part of our army. We are actually going to be doing this variant, the Flamer, but in... Actually, no, yeah, this picture is exactly correct. We're going to have flames on all of them because our army is very much based on the assault phase, which I'm very excited about, especially since, again, our army is completely focused on making sure that our... let me think here. Yes, it's very focused on making sure all of our guys are in close combat, and these two of them, because obviously we have two, because we got to balance out the army somehow, are going to be all about getting close, in close assault. And actually, now that I think about it, I think we're going to turn this into a bit of a tactics video, so I'll be right back. Okay, so this isn't going to be perfect because the table is not quite big enough necessarily to illustrate everything, but here's essentially what my army is doing currently in terms of its functions. Right now we're going to have these two squads here. They're all in little bunches because they're both going to be presumably in these tanks, which are going to be moving forward in between our columns. And just so you know, you do want to make sure there's enough space to leave so they can fit in between. But we pretty much want our tanks to be moving up in between our three columns of infantry, which are going to be... So this guy, our chaplain, he has a jetpack, as you can see, and he will essentially be leading our charge forward as we move up to engage whatever we're fighting. This dreadnought, because it has the talents, he's going to be moving up right behind him. He's going to be targeting those heavy vehicles that we have trouble dealing with. Our assault squads are going to be flanking out. Now keep in mind, we do have 3 of them, so we would actually want to go ahead and make sure that our guys are jumping all around the place. We don't want them bunched up too much when we're making our advances. And same thing on the other side, we would have groups going around to try and flank our opponents, because the Death Company are pretty strong. You know, they can, especially as long as we keep them within 12 inches of the chaplain, we can actually get those extra melee attacks, because when you assault, they'll all be jumping in. And these guys will kind of hang back. They might even combat squad, so that means we might have a split of 5 guys going this way. Oh, moving back there. And then 5 guys going the other way, around the tanks, depending on what kind of threats we're dealing with. We might need to reinforce either side. So they would be combat squatted into the 5-man groups. These tanks could very easily even pivot up and advance like this, and then drop open their... Oh, come on. And then they could even open up their doors and let the squads of Marines jump out with our captain with a plasma pistol and flamethrower team over here on this side. They could all possibly hop out, and obviously we'd want to have some basic scrubs in the front to protect the heavy weapons, but in general they would pop out over there. And then we'd want our melt-a-gun. That's a good tank weapon because he can pop out right behind our dreadnought and help get some additional firepower on any larger vehicles that we might be dealing with. And obviously keep in mind we're going to have 2 Vindicators and 2 Predators in the back behind all of this that I do not yet have currently at the moment, but I just had this idea in my head of like what to do. So we would need to give that distinction between the 2 squads, but they would both pop out. Our Terminators, I don't have enough room on the table, but these guys would be farther up the field, coming in with the captain and just dropping off and landing, so we can get some good rear attacks. Plus Terminators are fairly slow, so we want to get them where they need to go in the drop pod. And then over here in the back we would have our mini Devastator squad. They're a tactical squad, but they do have a missile launcher, and with the high ground, they'd be on some sort of a high ground. That's what the box is for. They'll be able to look over our entire force as we move out across the table. This is currently about 67 models not including the tanks, I think, because we have 60 in terms of the infantry squads, and then we have another 5, 6, 7 for the commanders and the terminators, and then 8, 9, 10, 11. So probably like 67 plus 68, 71. We have 71 physical plastic models on the entire table. So what we'd be doing is, depending on what we're dealing with, we could always have these two squads kind of come back and hook back up to become one big coherent 10-man squad again. Because in an assault you do want more guys than less. But with every single one of my guys having jump packs, they'll be able to get into combat very quickly. That's the point. This is a very close assault based, get to the objective army. For example, these rhinos will help us move forward to help capture objectives. That's probably what they're going to do. Those guys in the back will be dropping in to give support to these faster guys who can move up on all of the flanks that we're actually going to have. And then these guys could even hold an objective in our own territory. So we can control a maximum of 3 objectives at one given time. If needed, we can break into combat squads for all of them and make our presence even more vast. So I'm really a fan of the infantry swarm, and that's kind of what we're going to be doing. And keep in mind, again, obviously there are these gaps here. We'd want to have our predators with flamethrowers coming up on each of those sides and the far flanks to really surround them, and then we'd have vindicators here and here giving our heavy support to shoot over our infantry. And that's essentially going to be my plan. Obviously there's going to be a bit of a adjustment depending on table size and what we're actually physically capable of doing. You know, maybe we'd need to move stuff around and have these guys on the ground and not necessarily in the a bunch of high cover. But I really I find that when you're doing tactics, it really helps to visualize it by actually putting all of your guys down on the table. Because, I mean, I think this looks more intimidating to see, like, all the guys actually on the table here, instead of, like, instead of, like, us conceptually talking about it, to actually see our army on the table so we can think about what it's actually going to be doing when we actually get into a fight that's pretty massive. I mean, I really like these guys. I think they look amazing. I think I've done a good job of making sure that the models look nice. Well, they're nice enough to play. I'll admit maybe they're not the most perfect of all the models that have ever been created, but I'd say we've done a pretty good job making sure these guys look amazing. I mean, they seem like they'd be pretty intimidating to see on the battlefield, in my opinion. Yeah, especially like how these Terminators came out. They're pretty good. Obviously, again, when we do the massive painting thing, we're definitely going to be doing some stuff with that. As you can see, got some good shots of the army as a whole. And I really like it. I really like the way that it's come out. And I even like how we got the insignias for our Blood Angels posted, or well, not posted, but like painted onto our rhinos to make sure they're going to be as functional as possible. And right now, this is currently our entire army force. I'd say that with these tactics of kind of having 3 lanes to go at, and then guys to get objectives in between those, as well as a back holding objective with eventually there's going to be fire support. And then a deep striking suicide unit that'll do a lot of instant damage, but they're strong, they're Terminators, so they're going to be a threat. Our enemy has to attack them, otherwise they're wasting their shots. But they're only the shooting Terminators, which are become better for like range, so that means they can hold an objective and not necessarily have to assault to be effective. They can shoot and steal objective or contest something, which is wonderful. And they'll have Power Fists. Power Fists are good, they just hit swing last, so I think it's completely viable. And with all of our guys needing to, now granted, these squads wouldn't necessarily be this close. Ideally, we'd actually want to have these assault Marines kind of in between all of the 2 squads. It's just because of table space here. We're going to need to use a little bit of an imagination, but they'd be close enough to the We want them close enough to our chaplain in order to give them the extra attack bonus, because right now they're swinging about, what would it be? I guess 30 attacks times 2, so that'd be about 60 chainsword attacks, which is fairly strong in terms of dice, as well as having these guys up close. They get rapid fire, so that means with having 8 bolters in each squad, that's going to be about 16 additional shots, so a total of 32 for our forward squads. Obviously another 16 bolter shots for this, so that's good for dealing with the infantry. Again, as I mentioned, we have our melt-a-gun guy here. You know, this guy, he's going to be able to start taking out some support onto any sort of tank that might show up. Obviously, again, we have our flamethrower who can deal that template damage that we're looking for, as well as our terminators who can also do some damage. But this guy, the question is, I'm not sure quite yet how I want to utilize him. Obviously, I got to paint him up too, get him the red and the blue claws and all that good stuff, but I'm not quite sure how we're going to use him when attacking vehicles, because it depends. He might be needed better to help defend objectives, or he might even need to be dropped in. Obviously, I attached the flamethrower and the storm bolter, so we'll see what he's going to be able to fully do. So he has a little bit of range, but that's not really his main goal. The main goal is to get him into assault. Most of our army is going to be assaulting, and keep in mind, ideally we have predator tanks on either side with heavy flamers, as I showed you earlier. You know, these cool guys. And yeah, so what I want to know actually is if you guys have any questions about tactics, or if you have your own army that you're thinking about doing, I would say, other than leaving a comment with your full list of your army, which I will actually completely visualize your army on the table. If you can give me a list of your army, I'm going to make representing tokens for that army, and I would look at how I think formation-wise we'd want to move it. Now, obviously, there's dice. There's a reason I'm not talking about the unit's specific stats too much, because, well, what I'm able to do is going to be dependent on what my enemy has. So keeping that in mind, it can be very difficult to judge how your army is going to perform without a specific opponent, because I don't have a specific opponent yet. You know, I don't even know if I'm fighting other Space Marines, or if I'm fighting Orcs, or Eldar, Tau, Tyranids, you know, any of the Xenos groups, maybe even Chaos, or another chapter like Dark Angels, Ultramarine, Space Wolves, Salamanders, Imperial Fist, or Imperial Guard. So as you can see, there's a lot of armies out there, and it would just kind of, in my opinion, it would kind of suck to go making assumptions about the capability of our army in terms of its combat effectiveness against other armies. This is what it would look like on the table if it was coming at you. I think it's a pretty scary force, in my opinion. You know, certainly a lot more intimidating than, you know, most Space Marine armies, which are more mech. This has a lot of models. I think having more models on the table is much more intimidating than having fewer models with maybe better stats. So anyway, guys, that is going to wrap up our miniature tactics video in terms of our whole army plan. And then maybe I'll, depending on the feedback on this video, I might go more in depth about the individual units on a whole. Obviously, keep in mind you got to keep a lookout for that Predator video, and obviously the Vindigators are currently being created as we speak. So I'm Elwirfy, and I'll see you guys next time.